first going to go over completed transfers. And these include, so when we acquired the parcel from the state, it's not dedicated to any department in the city, so it goes under the building department. And the mayor has proposed, the council actually is the one that proposed, but the mayor gave the idea to the council. Because for all matters dealing with everything in the city except for real estate, the mayor proposes, the council disposes. But for real estate, the council proposes and the mayor disposes. So all of these require votes of the city council. And they go from the city council. So initially, and these dates might be not perfect, but in the year on or about 2020, the council transferred 120 acres of CPA land to the recreation department. That's more or less the bulk of the CPA acquired land. I think it was 145 acres for the CPA land. So all the land in the northern part of the Fernald is under the recreation department. We also transferred the Marquardt building to the Veterans Services Department to build housing, but that seems to be on hold. The city council transferred the Cardinal Cottage to the housing division in 2022. In just the last meeting in 2023, the city council transferred 12.49 acres of non-CPA land to the cemetery department, and that's land that's on the southern part, the southeastern, along Waverly Oaks Road. Completed projects. These are projects that have been completed at the Fernald. Construction of the fence along Propeller Road. As Brian had mentioned, there's 20 building demolitions in total, mostly on the north side. The pond restoration, the stream daylighting, that was in 2020, and that was at the site of where the cottages were built illegally in 1975. Other completed projects include survey of a wrought iron ring, environmental survey of the non-CPA parcel. That was when the school department was looking at the non-CPA portion of the Fernald for the high school site. And then finally, there was a council-approved conservation restriction for the pond area. This is the base map. These are the buildings that were demolished in the last, say, 6 or 7 years. You see the cottages up here. This is Propeller Road, Malone Park, the green unit, where the pool was, the first ADA accessible pool. Brookside Activity Center, the Shriver Center, Cirque, Kelly Hall. So all those buildings are gone. Next is the pond and stream restoration. When we looked at maps, there's a website that the United States government maintains. It's the aerial photography every 10 years. And if you look at the aerial photography of the Fernald site, you'll see that there were ponds at the Fernald that were filled in to build the cottages. So that drainage basin drains to the meadow along Beaver Street. So we all know that there's tremendous flooding events at Waverly and Linden Street every few years. So we've managed to restore the pond here, right here, and daylight the stream. And that holds up to 2 million gallons of stormwater, making it much slower descent into the meadow, which reduces the flooding. So that was a good thing. Next, I'd like to go over ongoing projects. The first is the playground in amusement park along the main entrance. And I'll get into that in a separate slide. The second is the relocation of the public works materials operations from Lexington Street to the Fernald site, despite the opposition of the residents of Ward 3 and 4. And then the third one is the renovation of the Cardinal Cottage. This is the location, spatially, of where the playground and amusement park will be located. It's along Propeller Road, right there, where the Shriver Center, the Cirque building, and that front green lawn is located. This is the reduced plan. So there was a plan for $45 million for a huge swath, and the mayor reduced it and submitted a $9 million plan. And again, this is Trapella Road. This is the playground. This is a pitch and putt. This is a train that goes around the pitch and putt. Parking lot, parking lot, parking lot. A track field with workout stations. When I was the Ward 3 councilor, the residents of the Lawrenceville neighborhood and Waverly Oaks Road, they just wanted the green lawns to be there so that they can play with their children, because a lot of the sports fields are dedicated throughout the city now. LC Turner is for softball. Falzone is for soccer. There's no general recreational field to fly a kite with your grandson or to play catch with friends or whatever. This is the larger proposed design, which did not yet occur. And here's the section which is the $9 million part that was submitted to the council and approved. Yes?
Could you explain what CPA means?
The CPA fund. So 2/3 of the site was purchased with CPA funds, which can only be used for
What do those letters mean, CPA?
Community Preservation Act. And it's a special fund when you buy and sell, I think it's real estate. It's sorry, the taxes, just the general taxes. Every resident pays a fee with their tax that goes in, and Waltham is currently at 2%. So,
Can I help you?
yes, go right ahead.
The Community Preservation Fund bought the part of property for open space, recreation, and historic preservation. That's what it's restricted to. The historic preservation means that the exteriors, in our case, have to be preserved, but that doesn't deal with what you can do there. Whereas the other third of the property can be used for anything. But there are restrictions on what can be done in the first 2/3 of the property.
I got a question. All this information you've given us, I was just wondering if we have a city councilor that's present at this meeting. Not that I don't trust what you're saying, sir, but I don't trust any politician with us. So, if there happens to be a city councilor that after you're through, he can tell us what his version is. That's fair enough.
Thank you. The next I'd like to talk about is the CPW relocation of their waste materials.
George, one question down here.
Sorry.
One quick question. Trapella Road,
Yep.
can you point at that? Okay. And there's a big open field there right now with a hill, correct? And that's
Correct.
facing south, correct?
That's Owl Hill, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we're on to CPW relocation. The mayor made a statement at the last meeting last year that the DPW is not relocating to the Fernald. But then in the Boston Globe, on January the 29th, the mayor's quoted, and I quote, "So far, work on the pond has been completed, and the city has moved its waste management facilities to the southern portion of the site." Unfortunately for the city council never voted to transfer the property that's shown in pink here, down here. The city council never voted to transfer that land from the general inventory to the CPW department.
So what does that mean, George? Does that mean that they have to cease and desist, or can they continue on?
I smile. It gets even better because the entire Fernald site, luckily, the foresight, I think it was Councilor Turallo, and I think Robert Logan also, they had the foresight to rezone the entire Fernald site to be conservation recreation. So this area is shown here in green. The entire Fernald site is zoned conservation recreation.
Excuse me, George, I'm so sorry, I'm late coming in, but I just asked somebody who you are and why you're talking, and they didn't know either, so.
I'm George Darcy. I live in North Waltham. I was a city councilor for 20 years. My term ended on January 6th of this year. So I have intimate knowledge. I have all the paperwork. if you need proof on anything that I'm stating
Make
here.
sure I knew who you were.
Yes.
Do you represent an interest or,
Do I what?
do you represent an interest or a group?
I represent myself. I'm not a counselor anymore,
Thank you.
but I have all the information to provide to you, and I can back it up if anyone has any questions.
Thanks.
The entire Fernald site is zoned conservation recreation. And that was done probably 20 years ago in the 90s, which was good. Unfortunately, hold on a second. Unfortunately, under the current city zoning, the table of uses, the use of conservation recreation land for junkyards, for garbage dumps, for composting facility, for yard waste transfer station, for heavy trucking and equipment storage is prohibited. And the city is not exempt from zoning. Again, you ask me and I just say I'm going to smile at that one. You get the inference. It's not allowed. Despite what the mayor has stated, it's not allowed under the current zoning.
But it's happened. It's not allowed.
She is quoted in the Globe of saying that the city has moved, past tense, its waste management facilities to the southern portion of the site.
Right, because in the last meeting in November, Patrice, are you here? Patrice is one of the people who said they're already moving in over there, and that was in November.
Right. And furthermore, I would state that the area that they're working is within a resource area, a wetland resource area, of which they're required to submit either a request for determination from the Conservation Commission or a notice of intent. And to my knowledge, there's been no request to the local Conservation Commission, but yet they're working in a resource area. Think about that.
No transparency.
Next, I'm going to talk about proposed projects. Fencing between Fernald and Waverly Oaks neighborhood. Acceptance of the environmental survey from the school department. We haven't formally accepted it yet. Acceptance of historical information concerning the pond area. Acceptance of an archaeological survey concerning the wrought iron ring. Receipt of the mayor's proposed building uses for all the buildings. The MWRA Metropolitan Water Tunnel Project. I have a separate slide for that. The building inventory, which has been revised, and the recreational area redevelopment, which is on hold, except for the $9 million for the front lawn for the playground.
A quick question.
Yes.
The second time the wrought iron ring has come up, what is that?
So the wrought iron rings, there's an odd wrought iron ring, a double ring structure to the east of the Belmont House. And there were rumors that it might be some sort of cemetery or of sorts. So they did, the city conducted a survey of the site, and that survey is available, and I can provide it to anyone. The elephant in the room is the proposed MWRA Metropolitan Water Tunnel Project, and that is for the MWRA to provide redundancy for the water that serves the towns north of Waltham, Belmont, Arlington, Medford, Malden. And MWRA wants to use a portion of the Fernald site for its tunnel. The tunnel is 400 feet below ground. It goes from the western town border with Waltham, underground 400 feet all the way to Waltham and then on to Belmont. It is, here's a map that was provided by MWRA. As you can see, it goes under here's the tunnel which comes from Weston over here, under downtown Waltham, near School Street. This is the meadow at Beaver Street, and then through a corner of the Fernald property, and that's the station that will have the shaft that goes down 400 feet that actually, they send this machinery in to actually dig the dirt, the soil out. But it's a multi-year project. It's 75 dump trucks per week for 6 years. Huge impact. It's like a big dig number 2. And MWRA wants to put that in Waltham. I question, if it's servicing the towns north of Waltham, why isn't it in Belmont? Why isn't it in Belmont?
Nobody's living at the front.
Here's Here's the 2 cottages that the mayor proposes to remove, and they are contributing. They're historic cottages. So they would be removed. The area in blue would be a fee interest. MWRA would own that area with the blue striped line. And then the red area would be an easement, in which the city still owns that portion of Fernald, but MWRA would lease it. And it would be surrounded by chain link fence and monitored. And as I said, it's a 6-year project. And, you know, that's being discussed at this committee of the whole on Tuesday night. And I believe that project in and of itself is worthy of a citizen input hearing for all the residents that live along Waverly Oaks Road. Why? Because the noise, the dust, the traffic, the interaction between dump trucks and school buses. So that needs to be, and I hope that doesn't get fast-tracked by the city council. That needs a separate meeting with the residents of Waverly Oaks Road if that is what the city intends to do.
That's non-CPA land, is it?
It's non-CPA land, but however, again, the entire area is zoned conservation recreation, both the non-CPA and the CPA portions. So I believe that it's not even allowed by the current zoning because it's heavy truck usage.
George, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is your successor aware of this group? And what-
My successor is in the room. I think he's in the back
I don't think we've ever met.
there. William Hanley is the new Ward 3 councilor.
Yes.
And I know I thank him for being here, for spending time to learn about these issues, and I'm sure he'll speak with you afterwards. Let's see. I won't go into many, there's 3 slides here of so the mayor went through the list of all the buildings at the Fernald, and she communicated to the council what her recommendations or thoughts were for each building. I won't go into it in detail because this is too much information, but I will say that the mayor has stated that Tarbell, Seguin, and I think it's McDougal, I believe, might be good for housing. But I question that because she has, moved the DPW facility just south of Tarbell along the Lawrence Meadow. And how could you, the residents of Ward 6 are happy to get rid of the DPW site because it's very noisy. If you have your pipe breaks in the middle of the night, they come and they excavate the fill from your street to repair the pipe. Where do they send that fill? Currently that fill goes to Lexington Street, to the DPW facility. So now that would be going to the Fernald. So all hours of the night, there'll be noises of trucks, and it's inappropriate for the Fernald site, in my opinion, flat down. And certainly if you're going to entertain housing at Tarbell or Seguin, I don't think anyone would want to live next to the DPW facility. But there's 3 slides I have, and I'll try to post my slide deck so everyone can read it later on. The mayor sent to the council that goes over every building. She also had 11 name requests, some to keep the name as the same, some to name a building or a lawn after something else, and it's okay. So I'd like to just, at the end of this talk, just to bring out the missing or the problematic. First of all, the city promised, or the mayor promised, a disability museum. Gann Academy did that wonderful exercise at the Museum of the Industry, and that's not on any map or anything. North Waltham residents, both Wards 3 and Ward 4, would like a community center, perhaps at the Howe Hall. Perhaps we would like a coffee shop or a public restroom so that when you bring your children to the Fernald site to walk or to run or to play, that you could access Wi-Fi and have a cup of coffee. There's no extension of the Western Greenway from the Met State through Fernald to the Mass Central Rail Trail. And that, everyone was in support of that during the last set of meetings. It's not on any of the recreation plan, nothing. And that's just a natural pathway from Trapella Road through Fernald through the state land and then through the field station and then hooking up to the Central Mass Rail Trail. The other thing was a 5K cross-country walking path that connects the high points of the Fernald. And the cross-country teams at Waltham High were so psyched about that because the loop is 2.5K. So you do the loop twice and you get 5K. So now they could have regional meets at the Fernald and really enjoy that beautiful space. That's not on any plan. The large portion of mature oak forest will be cut down for the disc golf facility. And again, I state, we've got 196 acres of land. There's no reason to cut down any mature oak forest. We have enough land to build whatever we want. We don't have to remove the natural beauty of the Fernald.
Right.
And again, number 7, no general recreational use for Donald Field. That's the front field. That's all carved up now into parking lots and into storm bays and to trains and whatever. And the ultimate plan for that recreation, the 45 million, is for 500 vehicles. We took all the pavement around the cottages up and now we're putting it back in for parking. It absolutely makes no sense. And then I'm going to have a slide for this because this really impacts the Ward 4 people. No wetland protection or enhancement behind Chapella House for the people of Shirley Road, Manning Road, and Upton Road. So, we'll get to this one.
George, excuse me.
Yeah,
Are there any bathrooms
where?
in your previous slide? Another problem might be,
I don't think so.
with 500 people, is there a bathroom?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they include bathrooms in their plan. I have to go into the details.
Yeah, there are plans.
There are. There are.
In the use of some of the buildings in the proposals.
Okay. So I'd like to point out one thing when we built the pond, when we restored the pond and daylighted the stream, as I said, that drains to the meadow, Lawrence Meadow. That is not hydrologically connected to the Waverly Oaks Road neighborhood. What is connected is that there are existing wetlands behind the Trapella House opposite Chase Road. And the city of Waltham does not intend to submit a conservation filing for those wetlands. In fact, they intend to fill them in. And all the while, the mayor's CPA application, if you can read it, to delineate and replicate any wetlands on site and to prevent flooding in the Tip Top Terrace, Shirley Road neighborhood, and downstream Waverly Oaks Road and Beaver Brook. So the people of Shirley Road, Upton Road, Manning Road, you're out of luck. Because the current plan that the mayor has proposed is not even keeping the wetland, they're filling them in. And that wetland should be restored. This is the goal on her CPA application. So if you live in that area, please talk to me afterwards. Yes?
Quick question on procedure at City Hall. Is there a way to file an injunction to stop the entire process and rethink it?
You have to go to court.
You have to, yeah. We can talk after that. And then a member of our team put together a spreadsheet. Actually, before we get to that, I just want to go over 2 other things. Here's the Greenway connection, the Western Greenway connection that's not on the recreation plan. It goes from Trapella Road here, it's in purple, through the west end of Fernald, crosses here, and then goes through the UMass Field Station land to get to the Central Mass Rail Trail. That's a resolution that I submitted, it got filed. And here's the cross-country track, connecting all the high points between the cottages, where the cottages used to be, to the Seguin Hall, which Brian spoke about, to Wallace, and then to Owl Hill. And 2 loops of that is a 5K. So the track people would have loved that. And that's on no plan, that's on nothing that I've seen. And then no general recreational use for Donald Field. Now, this one, the Donald Field, that actually got passed in the city council. My resolution got passed and approved in 2018 to reserve Donald Field, that front lawn, for general recreational use. And now the mayor has submitted a recreation plan that disregards what the council voted for in 2018. Go figure. A member of the group did a brief. It's abbreviated. We don't have all the numbers, but it has all the years, the projects, and what the estimated costs are. And it comes out to be, so far, and this is way under, but it comes out to be $16 million. The other thing I'd like to end with is that the last Zoom call we had for the redevelopment of the Fernald was in the year 2020. A single Zoom call with the architect that was selected for the Fernald recreation site. There were about 80 people on that call. We haven't had a meeting on the Fernald, a community meeting, since this is it. This is your community meeting for the Fernald. And that's not right. In 4 years' time, there's probably been 3,000 or 4,000 new people that have moved into Waltham. And they have a say, they pay taxes, they pay rent or whatever, they have a say. They should have a say. And I think that we should have Fernald meetings and get buy-in from everyone. Right now, it's all piecemeal. The DPW site, the MWR site, we need a reset. We need a reset. And we need to get the community behind a plan that they approve of. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
For those who came in a little bit later, I did share right at the beginning that we are just a group of concerned citizens who have decided to get together to look at this, what's happening at the Fernald, in order to try and influence the city and try and direct the effort that's being made in a way that really reflects what the Waltham residents need. And I do hear a lot of questions coming up, and we're really happy that there's a lot of questions coming up because we want to engage with you and hear you out and be able to bring your thoughts and your input into this process as well. You're going to hear, well, there's a petition, I believe, over there as well. Some people have already started to sign it. And you're going to hear some action items that you can do, that we're going to work with you to decide at the end of this meeting, and also a chance to answer questions. But I do want to move on because we do want to break out into groups. The groups that you are going to break out to, and I'm just going to go around the room and start them over here on my right-hand side. The Fernald Master Planning group, Jonathan Pars is going to run that group, and he's going to be right over here. If that's something that you have an interest in, go and stand with Jonathan and talk about that. We're going to want one person to identify themselves as a reporter and a scribe. Jonathan will run the breakout, but we do want folks to help us to come back and report back afterwards. The Housing at Fernald, Diana is going to do Housing at Fernald. She's going to be at that second window over there. At the fourth window, because the third window has blind on, we have, I wasn't able to introduce her at the beginning, we have Emily Horton Hall. Emily, are you here? There's Emily is going to run recreation for us. Thank you for stepping up and agreeing to do that. So talking about recreation, the train and the recreation and the amusement park, plus any other input that you have. Security. Now, I did hear a couple of people asking questions about security. This is going to be your opportunity to really have some input on that. You're going to be on the back wall towards the window on the left-hand side. Brian is going to run that for us because he knows the most about the security at Fernald. And then finally, Josh Kastorf is with us. He's going to talk about the memorial. And that's that past that door there in the middle is the spot for that one. We're going to give you 20 minutes. I will give a bell. It's a very loud bell at 15 to start wrapping it up and have you come back. And your goal is to identify the top 3 areas of interest or concern for each one of those. And then we'll have the reporters share with us at the end. Thank you.
we'll be back in about 30 seconds.
All right, folks, let's get you back into the main room. We have 20 minutes left and we want to do the reporting out, and then we've got a few last slides to share with you. So feel free to start team back into the room now.
Oh yeah, it's recording. Yeah, please.
All right, I'm going to need my fine reporters to let me know who they are. So we're going to start with Jonathan Klaus's group. Come on out. Let's see if this one works out. Hello? Yep, it is.
It's a free for all. Just do it.
Hello, everybody. So we were talking about the master plan. They're trying to put up the stand there. We'll see what I can do from memory in the meantime. So I think, is this not working? No, it is. All right, let me try it this way. How about now? There we go. Try not to knock this over.
Introduce yourself.
So my name's Sean Diamond. I was standing over there in the corner with the master planning group. A lot of good comments came up about transparency as one of the biggest things. So we talked about having a transparent and public process. We talked about the fact that the property itself at this point isn't even transparent because there's no trespassing signs and nobody can actually get on there to monitor what's going on from the public. We talked about having 4 major buckets to include, recreation, historic preservation, open space, and opportunities for sustainable energy, including solar panels. And so, I'll just editorialize a little bit since I'm speaking, but to the extent that there is going to be any parking, why not have a solar canopy over top?
Yeah.
There's no reason to be covering up open space with solar panels when there's, paved parking that's probably going to be somewhere on the site. Let me see, any other major points that we hit here? Yeah, I think, definitely opening up the space, making it available to pedestrians as soon as possible. There's enough of the property that it should be safe to do that. Making sure that there's actual open public meetings and posted meetings and other opportunities for public comment was a huge part of it.
And we said we wanted a public audit of everything that has been done to date, because people need to be caught up on what has happened so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let me see, was there anything else major? Oh yeah, we were definitely concerned about, either the lack of approval by the city council, or if, information was brought in front of the city council, was there a tendency to just quickly say yes to get through the vote without understanding what it is? So I think those were the main things. Anything that I missed from the...
We need a reset of the entire process.
And I think those are the main things, and it really just seemed to be taken away that, as much as we would love to elect our officials and then just let them do their jobs and support us, I think it seems like we're going to have more organizations like this, potentially some protest actions or other things that are gonna get people's attention and make sure that we're actually, looking at the property and defending it.
In the two table,
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, more logistics later for other things.
Great job, Ron.
Emily, did you have a quick comment you wanted to add?
Yeah, just about a reset of the process. I think that it's important that it doesn't, I talk to a lot of people in the city who are happy that something is being done there. And so they're like, don't stop it because they're finally doing something. And they don't really care what it is, but as long as something's being done. So I think a quick reset of the process, not that, oh, you're gonna start this all again and it's gonna be another 10 years of sitting there and waiting for something to
And
happen.
more buildings falling down.
Yes, so.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that we did talk about though was, we don't want to just have something happen there to have it happen. The preservation, absolutely, demolishing things that are dangerous, absolutely. But there's no reason to rush to put up new stuff in what is otherwise just open, nature. So that definitely came up in our discussion.
Thank you, and I know that's coming up with your group too, Emily, right? Yeah. I'm going to move on just because I do want to, in the interest of time, get to everybody. So our housing group, Diana Ran, who's our scribe, who's our reporter, Diana? Eamon, you're going to be our reporter. Come on up. I'm sorry, I do love to everybody. It's just mine, it's just who I am.
Well, he is kind of one.
Here's a love, yes.
I think you can lift the, is that a
Take it off the...
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thank you for all the presentations. My name's Eamon Dawes. I was a scribe helping out over with the housing group. What really came up again and again is the idea of a neighborhood. A place that, we don't want just one or two people living out in the middle of the woods as we rehab these facilities for housing. So first we talked about really having a mixed use of housing. If we think about affordable housing and market rate housing, housing for veterans, housing for folks who recently experienced homelessness. Just not having a single solution and trying to kind of put everyone in one box for the type of housing that we want. Making sure that it really feels like a community, and that you have people from different backgrounds and different types of housing. And then when you have housing, you also need amenities. So we talked about, I know there was mention about like a small cafe in the park space, also being able to have a small convenience store so that, you can, have those amenities nearby. Having a bus route or a shuttle that can get you either around the Fernald or, down to Main Street so you can catch the bus. Either having a bus on Waverly Oaks, having one on Japello, something that can get you into Waverly Square and Belmont by the train, making sure that folks have transportation options as they get around. Then also having support and making it feel like a community. We mentioned having a community center, community space in one of the core 4 buildings. Also, if you have veterans housing, if you have folks who were recently experiencing homelessness, making sure that they have the support services they need close by, and making sure that organizations can have space in this new neighborhood to be able to support the folks that live there. So as we think about housing, making sure that we have this holistic vision of not only a place for folks to live as they are in their home, but also as they are around their home. There's great opportunities for recreation nearby, making sure that you can pull in everything else that the neighborhood needs to give folks a place to live that has a lot of dignity.
Thank you. So we're moving on to recreation. Thank you, Emily, for doing that. And
Can I make a comment about housing?
yes, by all means.
There's a single house built right next to Propeller Road, all by itself. I drive by it 3 times a day. What is that about? Anybody know?
It's a family,
Is that Cardinal Cottage that you're talking about? Are you talking about Cardinal Cottage? Cardinal Cottage is currently under a renovation, and it's done? Inside as well?
The mayor asked.
No, only the exterior.
Only the exterior, the inside has not been, the inside is not done yet. It is going to be 2 units of affordable housing when it is done, but it is only the exterior has currently been renovated.
But it's all by itself, it's not that around.
I think they may have done something that we haven't heard about.
Potentially,
At
yes.
Baldwin, was I think the old Baldwin cottage, but I'm not
Baldwin was
sure.
demolished.
Something,
Baldwin's demolished and Trapello is rotting. The only one salvageable and safe is Cardinal.
Cardinal has been
but there's something that's been built that I think's on the Fernald property that is not historic. But I'm not sure, maybe it's not on Fernald. Maybe it's just past.
The one next to the Warren School
Yeah.
is called, it's all, I think it's all done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's done on the inside as well. because
Cardinal Cottage?
No,
I
it's
would-
not Cardinal.
Yeah, Cardinal Cottage has not been done on the inside, no.
This is just a different place.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on, and we're going to move on to recreation. I know you're willing to, welcome, come and pop your.
Well, I probably have to look at it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll introduce you, introduce yourself. Okay, my name is Emily.
Hello, my name is Emily, and I don't live near there, but I've driven by it, and we were allowed to visit the property at one time, and unfortunately I found a dead owl on it. But anyway, we don't know why there are going to be trains. We have amusements at Prospect Hill. You can't use it at least 6 months because it's off-season. And if there is a playground, there's exclusivity, there's no bus service. So the people in Belmont will be able to use it, people who live around the south side and Main Street and don't have a car aren't going to be able to use it. The traffic is horrible on Trabello. The tone of the whole thing is upsetting. Okay, let's move on to playground design, ill-advised. They could have maybe a summer nature recreation camp, which a mom here tells me they have, I think, was it at Cedar? Or there already?
They have them in different areas around the city,
And so
Nippermar,
kids can
Prospect Hill.
come and learn about salamanders and butterflies and just have fun in a camp like, and then everything should be universal. There shouldn't be like a universal park. Everything should be universal. I've just come back from property newly done by Mass Audubon, and they have, stuff in Braille. They have like little pieces of wood that show you what a woodpecker hole looks like and what the woodpeckers put inside of it. So you walk around and it's very interactive. And let's see, passive recreation opportunities, a greenway extension because kids can't bicycle there now. If there was a connection, kids could actually safely bicycle without going on Trapello Road. Sensory gardens, preserve the sledding hill. The 5K idea is really well received because that would be grass and they would just, that they would get their 5K in without putting down asphalt or anything. No artificial turf. The whole process, and going on to the process, review of plans by experts and citizen input. So,
All right, Brian, you ran the Security and Public Records Protection, and I don't know who your reporter is, or you're going to report out to us?
It would be Tracy.
Okay, Tracy, come on up.
We didn't do such a big,
No.
Or not. We didn't do such a big thing, so we've got a few bullet points. We talked a lot, we didn't describe a lot. Because our subject was security, right? What is happening there today? And so we put forth some ideas of what we could do there in the future. Currently, there is Waltham Police Department, does patrol the area. There are people much more knowledgeable about this than me who live near the site, who monitor the police department and things like that. So it would be a goal to meet with the police department, talk about current access, how the kids are getting in. There are people in this room who know that well, better than the police department. So that was our security discussion. Maybe having private security versus our current situation with the police department. Maybe a budget for that, but nonetheless, education for people who know the property well with the police department today. So that's security. Then we talked about access to the site, that neighbors want to walk there. We know that if they walk in, I do a lot of cemetery restoration, and our biggest advocates in the cemetery when things go wrong are dog walkers. So, letting the community come back in, making sure it's safe to do so, and then having a methodology to be able to report any issues. The more people who are there, the less we're going to see of all of the graffiti and all of that stuff. So access is a big deal. And finally, records. So we have an offer on the table from someone to go into the building that are condemned, right?
Yes.
And retrieve the rest of the records that are there. So in the Globe article, if you've seen the photos, you've seen the records. Some of them were taken by the state, but some of them remain. So we'd like to work with the city to be able to go in, package them all up, get them out of there once and for all. Those were our main points.
I'd like to just
So,
add just one or two things. Just one or 2 points to add to that. The current proposed fence is not actually going to prevent much of anything. I would propose that the fence actually surround the historic area to protect those buildings, and those are also the most dangerous buildings. So, I think it's a great idea to have public on the property to, community police it, but there's a lot of dangerous places, that need to be kind of kept off limits. But the more people on the property, the less kids with baseball bats, will actually be there. And then, yes, just to reiterate, I'm that volunteer. I know the buildings well. I took the photos of the discarded records. The state did remove plenty, but they did not remove them from the condemned buildings. I'm not afraid to navigate condemned buildings, so I will get them out of there.
Brad, it might be worth mentioning that they took, when they took the documents out.
Oh, that was recent. It was after the Globe article.
As I said at the beginning, our goal is to transparency, and I hope that that's something that you're getting from this today. For me, the greatest interest I have in the property is the memorial. I, think, put in mind, and I said this on a group chat with our group this morning, of the New York, the Twin Towers, and the thought and the care that went into memorializing that tragedy. And this has been a huge tragedy for the families who had to navigate the Fernald system, and for their children and their loved ones. And I think we really need to do a good job of memorializing it. So this is my greatest interest. Josh, I'm going to have you, are you going to chat?
Yes,
Josh and I know each other well from another life, and I'm going to have Josh come up and introduce that for us.
So
Thank you.
We talked about the memorial. So the city's plan does include a memorial. Our concern about it is we don't know much about it, and we don't know to what extent people with personal connections to the Fernald had any input on it. Mayor McCarthy has informally mentioned one person who advised her on it. That's a person who has a very specific point of view. She is someone who fought to keep the Fernald open. She's entitled to her point of view, but it doesn't necessarily represent the thousands of people who have personal connections. So we talked about ways to reach out to those people, find those people, and get them involved, and talking about what the memorial should be. If we don't succeed in changing the city's plan, we still have that for posterity. We still have their thoughts about what it should have been. We talked about using social media, using newspaper, because this would include a lot of older people who are maybe not on social media. And we also talked about connecting people. There are some people here tonight who are involved in historic preservation and have been involved in other sites with difficult histories. This is not unique. The Fernald's unique in a lot of ways, but in terms of being a site with a difficult history that needs to be repurposed, it's not unique. There are people who are experts on this, and we need to get them into the conversation. One specific action step we discussed was starting a Facebook group, which would be for people concerned in the history, regardless of whether they're from Waltham or not, to bring in more people from outside of Waltham who have expertise. One person gave a specific idea about a memorial, which would be to create walkways with bricks that have people's names on them. That seems appropriate given that it started off with people doing manual labor there and helping to build the campus. Another thing we talked about is reviving the idea of a museum of disability that would either be at the Fernald site or maybe would be somewhere else but would have some kind of presence on the Fernald site. Alex Green and his students did quite a bit of work on this, and they got as far as an op-ed. They have an op-ed in the New York Times. They have actual exhibits at the Charles Museum. So we don't want to just let all that effort be wasted. And to create a museum would mean requiring partnering with a bigger organization that has the structure to fund something long-term, and universities are good at that. So we want to look into the various universities that have connections to the Fernald's history, or that have records, have various kinds of connections that might be interested in this. So if people have those connections at universities, we should try to get those people thinking about this. And yeah, I think that's what we covered. We got a specific name of a professor at Brandeis who has a connection that I'm going to follow up on. But basically, we need to expand the conversation on this. We have good channels for people in Waltham to talk about it, but we need to expand it beyond Waltham.
Thank you, Josh. So we're right at our 2-hour mark, which I promised you we'd wrap it up, and I'm going to ask for your grace for another 5 minutes while Diana and Jonathan come and wrap up our presentations to you this afternoon and talk about an action plan going forward. So Diana, come and join us. Yep.
One of the things we have on the table over there is a petition. Now, it's a petition, it's a short order one, because the council will be meeting this Tuesday to begin discussing at the Committee of the Whole all the proposals that the mayor put forward the other day, this past Monday, for the Fernald. And this is not the last petition I believe this group will be sending, but this is the short-term one. And the things that we wanted to look at was have the community be able to comment and ask questions around the placing of the perimeter fence, which Brian just mentioned, the naming of the administration building for 3 of its original directors or founders, and to see if that's really appropriate, that it's worth discussing. There's also a proposal to accept historical information, but it excludes information about the Howe Library, which was a beautiful little building that unfortunately has been terribly vandalized, but which held an awful lot of the research that was done on people with, or for people with mental disabilities. It's a shame that it's not even included on the building list. The next is that the mayor is suggesting, thank you, giving the West Nurses building to the recreation department, but doesn't say why. So there's another building, another thing to go. She had some other buildings that she was suggesting going for things like bathrooms, which made some sense, but this one in particular, no explanation for it. There's also the issue of the MWRA project, which is even worse than I realized, and the demolition of the 2 buildings. And then the demolition of the Howe Library, which it's listed as a garage on the building list that she put together. There's a garage behind it. It's not even being recognized. And then lastly, asking why now is the city bringing in a historic architect to study the many historic buildings on the property? What's the purpose? And on what criteria are they going to use? So anyway, the petitions are over there. There are some reading copies if you just want to read the language. And then there are sheets for you to sign if you would be so willing. And then we will give that to the council and to the mayor in time for Tuesday's meeting. Thank you.
So some last minute action steps. We're going a little bit over time, so I'm going to keep my remarks abbreviated. First of all, thanks to all of you, but we do need your help on Tuesday night, as Diana mentioned. Tuesday night's major. We need to get the word out to our neighbors about the petition, but we also need to get the word out to our elected city leaders who should represent us, right? Not just someone else's agenda. So we have a letter here. It's through Action Network to basically communicate to the council to slow down and to listen to us, and asking for a public hearing on these two major items that are going to be discussed. Again, it does not hurt anyone to actually have a public hearing. If you're an elected official, you should embrace that as part of your role as an elected leader. So we're asking folks to circulate this list. We're going to be sending out email blasts, but don't wait for that. If you can do this now, you can send this in. It's as simple as writing your name, your address, and boom, it'll send it off to the entire city council and the mayor. So it's just so important to get this out. And I will be sharing, as a recap, if you have any questions or things that you think we should address in the next future meeting, I have these beautiful postcards, and we want you to, in addition to signing the petition, to put it on that beautiful piece of paper over there. If there's anything remaining, outstanding, something that we missed, something that you think we should maybe think a little bit more carefully, we would love that feedback. This is a community-driven process. We're trying to exemplify these values here. So I'm going to leave these over there by the table, but please write them down. We won't really have too much time for question and answer, but I just again want to thank everyone who has participated in here, the core Fernald, the People's Fernald Working Group. We do have a scholar in the back, Alex Green. We're very thankful for him being here. We do have two councilors here, Councilor from Ward 3, Bill Henley, and Councilor at Large Colleen Bradley MacArthur. We do appreciate your presence here, and we do hope that you do what's right, because this isn't a sacred piece of property, and we should get this right. There's no need to rubber stamp a process that's not transparent, not cohesive, not clear, and we should do the actual due diligence that we need. So again, as a reminder, these are the upcoming meetings this Tuesday, and then there's a rec board meeting on March 6th. We really encourage all of you to show up, participate in these meetings, because for too long they have been shutting the public out of this process. So let's make sure that we include the people, make your voices heard, and make sure that it's the people's Fernald. This land belongs to us. It's the people's Fernald, and not someone else's. Thank you so much, everyone.
Can I just say something that hasn't come up at all?
You can write it down here.
But I'd like to food for thought.
Oh, last thing, really quickly. I'm so sorry, sis. We have to give back this room. If everyone can get their chair and help post it over there in the back, you would be doing us a major favor. Thank you so much. Chairs in the back if you can hang.